Ready to step off the map from the most hidden alleyways to the stories nobody told you? Uncharted Alleyways begins now. Your definitive guide and travel podcast, culture, adventure, and the world as you've never heard it. Tune in, disconnect from the obvious, and come explore with us. Uncharted Alleyways, your next trip starts here.
We spend like so much of our day trying to shave seconds off our tasks.
Yeah, constantly.
Right. We download apps to summarize articles. We watch videos on double speed. I mean, we legitimately feel our blood pressure spike if a web page takes more than like 3 seconds to load.
Yeah, we are completely obsessed with efficiency.
Exactly. But what happens when you step into a space where time isn't measured in seconds or minutes, but in generations, where the ultimate goal isn't output or speed, but just, absolute meticulous perfection?
Well, it's the ultimate antidote to the modern rush. When you look at cultures that prioritize craft, they are actively rebelling against the disposable nature of modern life.
Right. They remind us that the best thing simply cannot be rushed.
Absolutely.
So welcome to today's deep dive. I am thrilled you're here with us because today we are stepping completely away from the daily grind and just immersing ourselves in a world of pure craftsmanship.
Yeah, it's going to be a really refreshing shift in perspective.
It totally is. We are analyzing excerpts from a travelogue titled Florence, the Soul of the Renaissance Craft. Specifically, we're diving into an installment called Where Masters Left Their Mark.
And, let's be clear up front about this. Our mission today is not to just hand you a bulleted checklist of tourist attractions.
No, not at all.
We really want to extract the underlying philosophy that Florence teaches us about patience, creativity, and living with deep intentionality.
Because those are cognitive skills and mindsets that translate directly into our own careers and personal lives.
Exactly, regardless of whether you ever, pick up a paintbrush or a chisel yourself.
Right. So just to set our scene really quickly, the source drops us right into the heart of Tuscany.
Beautiful place to be dropped.
Oh, for sure. So we have already stood beneath the gravity-defying dome of Santa Maria del Fiore. We've climbed Giotto's bell tower, wandered through all those amazing statues in Piazza della Signoria, and crossed the iconic Ponte Vecchio.
Yeah, we've firmly established that Florence doesn't just hand you its beauty. It reveals it one quiet, deliberate street at a time.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because our source immediately takes us into a space that, frankly, induces a bit of anxiety for the modern traveler.
Oh, you mean the Uffizi Gallery?
Yes, the Uffizi.
Yeah, the very concept of a sprawling art museum can trigger some real cognitive exhaustion for people.
Oh, totally. For many, it implies this, like mandatory trudge through endless echoing hallways, just staring at centuries-old paintings until everything blurs together into one giant canvas.
Right. Museum fatigue is a very real psychological phenomenon.
I think the reason museums feel so exhausting is because we treat them like our social media feeds. We try to process, 500 complex visual data points in a single hour.
Which our brains are just not equipped to do meaningfully.
Exactly. But the source frames the Uffizi entirely differently. It tells us that this building is not a checklist.
No, it describes it as a physical timeline.
Yeah, a timeline where you can watch the mechanics of human creativity evolve in real time. Like you move from room to room and you see artists slowly figuring out how to play with light.
You see them developing one-point perspective.
Right, which is the mechanical trick of giving a flat, two-dimensional surface the illusion of deep three-dimensional space.
It's wild to think that had to be invented.
I know. And you also see them layering emotion into their storytelling.
What's fascinating here is the underlying requirement for that kind of visual innovation. The text points out that walking through the Uffizi forces you to fundamentally alter your internal metronome.
Oh, I like that phrase.
Yeah, well, when you observe the mechanics of these paintings, like the translucent layers of tempera and oil paint built up over months just to mimic the glow of human skin, you start to comprehend the sheer labor involved.
It's staggering when you really look closely at it.
It is. The Uffizi is a monument to the reality that mastery is an iterative process. It requires relentless curiosity and, a willingness to sit with a single problem, like how to paint a realistic shadow for literally years.
And the source gives a deeply practical piece of advice that pushes back on our instinct to just consume everything all at once.
Yeah, I love the practical tips they included.
Me too. It suggests reserving tickets ahead of time, going in the quieter morning hours, and most importantly, finding just one painting that speaks to you and staying with it.
Just one.
Yeah, I love this because we usually doom scroll museums. We walk past at a steady clip, glancing left and right, hoping to casually absorb greatness as we walk by.
Right, like learning by osmosis or something.
Exactly. But the text is begging us to stop. It's arguing that treating one single painting like a complex book that needs to be deciphered, studying the brushstrokes, the geometry, the hidden symbols, is a profoundly richer experience than a superficial binge of the whole building.
And that willingness to stop and read the physical evidence of someone's dedication, that really prepares the mind for what happens just a short walk away at the Accademia Gallery.
Oh man, the Accademia. People travel from every corner of the globe for one specific reason here.
Michelangelo's David.
Michelangelo's David. And the source points out a crucial psychological hurdle here. We have all seen photographs of David. We've seen replicas, statues in people's gardens. Our brains think we already know what it is.
But the text insists that standing in the physical presence of the actual sculpture completely shatters that preconception.
It really does.
It's the sheer mechanics of its creation that commands that awe. The sculpture stands over 17 feet tall.
17 feet. That is massive.
Huge. But the detail that demands pause is that it was carved from a single, continuous block of marble.
Just wrap your head around the tension of that process. Michelangelo was using a subtractive method.
Right. He wasn't building something up with clay where you can just, add a piece back on if you make a mistake.
Exactly. He was removing material to reveal the figure inside. One strike of the mallet that sends the chisel a fraction of an inch too deep, or one hidden fissure in the stone that cracks under pressure, and the entire block is ruined.
There is zero margin for error. None.
Zero. Yet, instead of playing it safe with blocky, conservative shapes, the detail is rendered with complete anatomical perfection.
The mechanics of the human body are just fully realized.
Yeah, the tendons in the hands, the tension in the muscles, the lifelike veins pulsing under marble skin, the furrowed brow.
I mean, the sculptor had to understand the cardiovascular system just to carve a piece of rock. It's incredible.
It is. The source notes that visitors instinctively do something very telling when they see it. They quietly circle the sculpture multiple times.
Like they're being pulled into its orbit.
Yeah, they're tracing the lines of tension from every angle. It's a masterclass in pushing back against the urge to snap a quick selfie and walk away. You have to circle it slowly just to process what human hands are capable of achieving through applied imagination and terrifyingly high stakes.
And that level of hyper-focused energy doesn't just stay trapped inside museum walls. The philosophy of the Renaissance was about elevating everyday life, which brings us to the next vital observation in the text.
Right, leaving the museums behind.
Yeah, when you leave the static, preserved masterpieces of the galleries and cross over the Arno River, you step away from the densest crowds and into a neighborhood called Oltrarno.
Oltrarno. The source calls it the creative soul of Florence.
Such a great description.
It really is. It says the pace drops significantly here. The narrow streets aren't lined with massive monuments, but with small, unassuming workshops. We're talking about artisans who are actively shaping leather handbags entirely by hand.
Right, and goldsmiths meticulously chasing and repoussing metal.
Oh, wait, what is repoussing again?
It involves hammering jewelry into intricate reliefs from the backside using techniques that are pretty much unchanged for centuries.
Wow, and then there are woodworkers, bookbinders, ceramic artists.
It is a living, breathing ecosystem of craft. The exact same mindset that meticulously chipped away at marble is currently sitting at a workbench, carefully stitching leather with 2 needles and wax thread.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text draws a razor-sharp distinction between the economics of modern tourism and the economics of Oltrarno.
Yes, the difference between a transaction and an investment.
Exactly. It compares buying a mass-produced, factory-stamped souvenir to purchasing a piece crafted in these workshops. When you buy a cheap magnet or a machine-made bag, it's merely a transaction. The object has no lineage.
None at all.
But when you buy a hand-shaped leather bag in Oltrarno, the mechanics of that purchase change entirely. You are investing in a local family that has dedicated generations to perfecting the edge burnishing and stitching of that specific leather.
You aren't just buying a bag, you are funding the continuation of a centuries-old story. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about the frequency of the environment.
What do you mean by frequency?
Well, the Uffizi is silent, curated, and reflective. It has a very specific, quiet energy. But Oltrarno is raw. It smells like tanning oil and sawdust. It's noisy with the rhythmic tapping of jewelers' hammers. It is tradition in perpetual motion.
Oh, I see. And navigating that kind of intense, sensory-rich environment requires balance. The source understands that you can't just consume dense culture for 12 hours straight without burning out.
No, nobody can.
So just beyond the workshops of Oltrarno, it points us toward the Boboli Gardens as a vital decompression chamber.
A decompression chamber, that's a perfect way to put it. The mechanics of landscape architecture in the Boboli Gardens were actually designed for that exact psychological purpose. Really? Yeah, the text notes that these gardens inspired landscape designers across all of Europe, and it's because they understood the necessity of negative space.
Oh, negative space, like in art, but for your brain. The sensory details provided by the source really paint the picture here. It's not about manicured, rigid perfection. It's about shifting your sensory inputs. You leave the hammering of the goldsmiths and instead listen to birds overhead.
You trade the claustrophobic workshop walls for tree-lined pathways.
Yes, elegant fountains, shaded benches looking out over the city. It's a profound reminder that traveling doesn't require you to conquer a new landmark every hour. Sometimes the most culturally authentic thing you can do is find a quiet bench, drink some water, and just exist in the space.
Absolutely. And a mind that has been allowed to rest and decompress is finally ready to appreciate the next tier of Florentine craft.
Oh, my favorite part, the food.
Because this dedication to patience and physical technique extends directly from the artist's studio right into the kitchen.
Yes. This might be my favorite part of the source material. It takes us from resting in the gardens to completely overwhelming our senses again at the Mercato Centrale.
The structure of that market is so fascinating.
It operates on two distinct levels, both physically and philosophically.
Right, so on the ground floor, you are met with the raw materials of the region.
The text describes this absolute explosion of aromas. You have vendors selling fresh basil, warm bread straight from the oven, massive wheels of aged Parmesan, sweet pastries, extra virgin olive oils.
Handmade pasta, cured meats.
It's a chaotic symphony of ingredients down there.
It really is. And then you ascend to the upper floor, which transforms into a lively, modern food hall.
Yeah, this is where chefs take those raw ingredients from downstairs and immediately put them to work. Wood-fired pizzas, fresh pasta being rolled and cut right in front of you.
It's an arena designed for sampling local flavors in real time.
Now, I have to push back here for a second because the source gives a piece of advice that violently clashes with my typical travel logic.
Uh-oh, what's that?
It explicitly says to walk around the food hall first, take your time, and purposefully look for the longest line.
Ah, the line.
Now, if I am traveling, my time is my most precious currency. I associate lines with inefficiency. Why on earth would I burn 45 minutes standing behind 20 people for a plate of pasta when there's a perfectly good empty stall right next to it?
I hear that entirely. We are conditioned to seek the path of least resistance. But let's break down the mechanics of a line in a hyper-local environment like the Mercato Centrale.
Okay, wait on me.
An empty stall is empty for a reason. A long line of locals isn't a sign of inefficiency. It is a real-time, undeniable, physical five-star review.
So the line is the filter.
Precisely. Making truly exceptional fresh pasta requires a specific hydration of the dough, a specific resting time, and careful cooking. It cannot be rushed without degrading the quality.
That makes a lot of sense.
The locals in that line understand that the mechanics of great food require time, and they are willingly exchanging their time for guaranteed mastery.
This raises an important question, though. As the source transitions from the bustling market to highly specific, family-run trattorias, I started wondering, why do we constantly overcomplicate our own output?
Explain how you see that playing out in the trattorias.
Well, look at the places the text highlights. Trattoria di Ruggero is praised for serving unpretentious traditional recipes to a deeply loyal local base.
Right.
And then there is Trattoria Sostanza. The source specifically praises Sostanza because their menu is small. They aren't trying to offer 100 different mediocre options just to please everyone.
Yeah, they keep it focused.
It reminds me of a legendary rock band going on tour and refusing to play any filler tracks. They just play their greatest hits over and over with absolute practiced mastery.
That is a brilliant way to frame culinary philosophy. The mechanics of Tuscan cooking rely almost entirely on the integrity of the raw
The
ingredients.
stuff from the ground floor of the market.
Exactly. If you have incredible olive oil, perfectly aged cheese, and fresh produce, you don't need a 20-page menu with complex masking sauces. You just need to respect the ingredients and get out of their way.
And the source gives us a hit list of those traditional staples to seek out. If you're dining with a group, they highlight the bistecca alla fiorentina.
Oh, the steak, yes.
This is a massive, thick-cut, dry-aged steak meant to be shared. The mechanics of cooking it are incredibly specific, roaring high heat to sear a crust on the outside while leaving the inside beautifully rare.
And it's seasoned with a little more than salt, right?
Exactly, just salt to let the quality of the beef speak for itself.
And for a completely different approach to ingredients, especially in the cooler months, the text recommends ribollita.
The ultimate Tuscan comfort food.
It is, and the mechanics of ribollita are rooted in historical resourcefulness. It literally translates to reboiled.
Right.
It's a hearty soup made from leftover vegetables, cannellini beans, and stale bread. Boiling the stale bread breaks it down, which naturally thickens the broth. Yeah, it's the perfect example of peasant ingenuity transforming humble, leftover ingredients into a culinary masterpiece.
A personal favorite detail from the food section, though, is the schiacciata.
Oh, the flatbread?
Yes. The text issues a mandate. If you pass a bakery displaying this delicious, dimpled Tuscan flatbread, where the olive oil pools perfectly in the crevices, often stuffed with cured meats and local cheeses, do not hesitate. You buy it immediately.
And take it for a leisurely picnic beside the Arno River.
Exactly. Which perfectly bridges the gap between what you consume and how you actually inhabit the city.
Yeah, because we've analyzed how to feed the mind at the galleries, how to support the soul of craft in Oltrarno, and how to respect culinary traditions. But the text also addresses the overarching rhythm of your stay.
Right. It forces us to ask how we pace our actual day-to-day existence when we drop ourselves into a new culture. So what does this all mean when it comes to simply choosing where to lay your head at night?
The source contrasts two very different approaches to accommodations here.
It does. If it is your first visit and logistics are your primary concern, it suggests staying near Santa Maria Novella.
The mechanics of that location offer high convenience. You are close to the main train station and within easy walking distance of the major monumental sites.
But if you want to internalize the gentler pace we've been breaking down today, the source points you straight back across the river to Oltrarno.
Back to the creative soul.
Yeah. It describes tucking yourself into charming, family-run guest houses along peaceful side streets. Instead of the drone of heavy traffic and tour buses, the text says you wake up to the sound of local church bells.
And the hidden value there is the human capital. Staying in a family-run bed and breakfast gives you access to personalized, generational knowledge.
Which is invaluable.
It really is. The recommendations you get from a local family over morning coffee operate on a completely different level than an algorithm or some printed guidebook.
Oh, 100%. But regardless of which side of the river you choose to sleep on, the source issues one definitive, overarching thesis. Florence rewards slow walking far more than hurried sightseeing.
Slow walking, it's the physical manifestation of patience.
I love that. And that culminates in the most evocative scene in the text, the golden hour.
Yes, sunset.
The source paints this incredible picture of the day winding down. You return to the banks of the Arno River as the afternoon fades, the harsh daylight softens, and the mechanics of the sunset start to reflect these incredibly warm, luminous shades of gold and orange across the water.
It's a sensory reward for a day lived intentionally.
It really is. The text describes street musicians setting up and performing acoustic sets beneath the ancient stone arches of the Ponte Vecchio. Friends are gathering along the embankment, not rushing to a reservation, but just sitting and dissecting their day.
Cyclists are quietly gliding past.
Yes, and the source uses this stunning phrase to capture the atmosphere. It says, "The city seems to exhale."
A collective release of tension.
Yeah. I was trying to pinpoint the exact modern equivalent of a city exhaling, and I think it is that precise, deeply satisfying second when you finally fold your laptop closed after a highly productive, deeply focused day of deep work.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. You hear the click of a hinge and your shoulders involuntarily drop 2 inches. But in this scenario, you're experiencing that physical exhale while holding a melting scoop of artisanal pistachio or stracciatella gelato. Sitting beside a centuries-old river, just watching a Renaissance skyline settle into the twilight.
And as the text wisely observes, those unscripted, quiet moments are the ones that actually cement themselves into your long-term memory.
Yeah.
Because when you strip away the tourism, what connects all of these disparate elements?
Yeah.
The mechanics of carving a 17-foot David from a flawed block of marble, the generational dedication of a leather worker in Oltrarno, the humble perfection of reboiling stale bread into a rich ribollita, and the choice to wake up to church bells instead of traffic.
What's the through line?
The through line is uncompromising intentionality.
None of it is accidental.
None of it. It requires a deliberate, often difficult choice to reject the fastest, cheapest option. It is a commitment to quality, a deep respect for tradition, and a willingness to remain fully anchored in the present moment.
That is so beautifully said. To bring all of this together for you listening, we've charted a fascinating path today through the insights of our source.
We really covered a lot of ground.
We did. We started by challenging our modern addiction to speed, unpacking the painstaking mechanics of light and perspective hidden within the Uffizi Gallery.
We explored the physical tension and high-stakes craftsmanship required to free Michelangelo's David from stone.
We crossed the river to stand inside the noisy, living workshops of Oltrarno, recognizing why true generational craft always holds more intrinsic value than a cheap transaction.
We learned the culinary mechanics of restraint in Tuscan trattorias.
And finally, we sat by the Arno River, allowing ourselves to simply exhale alongside the city.
It is a profound blueprint for how to interact not just with the new culture, but with your own time.
It really is.
The source demonstrates how Florence has fiercely protected its slow, meticulous soul against an increasingly frenetic, fast-paced world. So my question for you is this. If you were to actively carve out your own personal Oltrarno in your daily life, a protected mental or physical space dedicated entirely to patient, deep work rather than rushed, disposable output, what would that actually look like for you?
What a fantastic concept to leave you with. Finding your own dedicated space to actively push back against the rush. We hope this deep dive has given you a moment to pause, to rethink the mechanics of how you spend your time, and maybe inspired you to slow your own pace just a little bit today. As our source so perfectly concludes its chapter, keep wandering, keep creating. We will catch you next time.